Hi, I'm Bonnie Browning with the American Quilter Society, and I'm here with Sue McCarty from Roy, Utah. And Sue is the winner of the APQS Longarm Machine Quilting Award. So that means you bested every other machine quilter in the whole show, didn't you?
Well, I spent a lot of hours on it. I don't know about besting, but...
Well, I think the ribbon proves that. And so, first of all, why don't you just tell me a little bit about your inspiration for making this quilt about The Hobbit?
Sure. This quilt is based on the book The Hobbit, and I basically, read the book, I went through it, and I picked out little tidbits I thought would be interesting. It starts actually in the lower right corner with Bilbo and Gandalf, and then there's a path. You can see part of the path here, and it follows along to all of their future adventures. It's called Adventure Awaits. So these are the adventures that are awaiting Bilbo and Gandalf and the dwarves. And it follows the journey all the way up to Smaug's lair. So.
Okay. Well, I just have to tell you, I'm sure our photographer will get some nice close-ups here. The workmanship in the stitching of this is magnificent. So it's free motion quilted?
Yes, it's free motion quilting on my long arm. I spent 800 hours, 550 hours on this quilt were on the long arm quilting, and the rest were on design, things like that.
Well, it's amazing, and you really have to get up close to see all of that detail. So can you point out just a few of the things that you have on here?
Well, obviously there are the big scenes, which are, like, for example, these trolls here were a big scene in the book. But then there are dwarves. There are 13 dwarves in the story, and I didn't have time or the desire to quilt 13 dwarves. So I was subtle, and in the beginning of the book they all have musical instruments. So here's a case of a harp that was thorns, and there are 12 other musical instruments hidden in the vines that stand for the dwarves. So, and that's one thing. And for example, there are like 8 birds on the quilt that I hope children will be able to hunt for and find. And
there's butterflies and bats and all kinds of animals.
Turtles and fish, and there's all kinds of things that I hope will add interest to the quilt.
Okay, is there something else that we ought to know about the quilt that just in the process of making it? I mean, to me, it is just a mammoth job to do all of this stitching and make sure you do it in the right place.
Well, you start out drawing on paper. It's much easier to erase than it is to pick out, although admittedly a long arm quilter's best friend is her little seam ripper. But so I start and I draw each block on paper, and then I lay them out on the floor until I get them in the right position, and then I'll transfer that using a light box on my black whole cloth fabric. It's just one piece of black fabric with a white chalk pencil, and then I will move to my long arm machine and I'll kind of outline everything, stabilize everything, and then I intensify the quilting as I go. So you're rolling the quilt back and forth and getting denser and denser in your quilting.
And so I guess for my own question, do you start in the middle and work out, or do you start at one end and work toward the other end?
As a long arm quilter, I start at the top of the quilt and then I roll down.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, it certainly is a well-deserved award.
Thank
and now
you.
I know that everybody wants to know, how long did it take you to make this quilt?
It took 800 hours total over about 8-month period.
So that's a lot of time.
It is, but if you divide it, that's only 100 hours a month, and there's 40 hours in a week.
So working.
And if you figure even a 10-hour day, it's not so bad.
Okay, but now the next question is this the only piece you were working on at that time?
No, I quilt for customers. So the way I work is I quilt for customers during the week, Monday through Friday, and then my own quilts get put back on my machine on the weekends. And that's how I work.
Well, so you work every weekend.
I worked every day for 8 months to accommodate both my customers and myself, and I did not take a day off, and I'm so happy that I'm done.
And so how many quilts are you quilting over a year's period?
I average 2 a day for customers. I do one on my Statler machine, and that's running by itself for an edge-to-edge design, and then I do a custom. So, 2 a day. hopefully only 5 days a week, but unfortunately sometimes I go, more because I'm working my Statler while I do something like this.
And so does that mean you have 2 machines?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right. Well, that answers that question.
But
You're not flipping these back and forth.
No, but this is freehand quilted on my regular machine.
Okay, well, it certainly is a gorgeous quilt. And now everybody always wants to know, are you going to put this quilt in the Quilt Museum?
There is no better place that I could think of for this quilt. And when I first started it, I already have a quilt, as you know, called Tribute to Token that lives in the Quilt Museum, and I wanted this one to go and join it. So for me, this award is a dream come true, and I am so grateful. And the Quilt Museum here in Paducah it's a beautiful facility, and the people are genuinely wonderful people, and there's just no better place for the quilt.
And it will be taken well care for them.
Yes, they have the love and the facility to do so.
So is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Tell us a little bit about entering our contest. I don't know if everybody knows, but now you will be able to enter all of our contests online, including uploading your photos and everything. So that process is much easier now.
It was a breeze. It truly was a breeze. And you just download those pictures, and I'm technically challenged. So if I can enter this contest, anybody can do it. And don't be afraid. A lot of people are intimidated. But the first time I entered a contest, I was thrilled. I got an honorable mention, and I was just happy to be among such wonderful artists. Look around. They're all beautiful.
Well, congratulations again, Sue. And this is an honor that's well deserved with this beautiful quilt.
Thank you. Thank you so much.